Hi everyone, it's me, and apologize for another period of not posting a lot, but I do have some exciting news, which is that I am publishing a book with the wonderful folks over at Hillborn Civil Sector Press. They've contracted with me to write a book around purpose-driven governance. Yay! Where's the arrows? They go this way. There you go. Purpose-driven governance. Yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I just can't believe, feel really blessed and full of gratitude. So I thought what I'd do instead of posting articles, because I need to focus on writing the book, that I would do videos once a week and in part talk about where I'm getting to with the book and what I'm trying to accomplish. See if you have any feedback as we go forward. So yeah, super excited about that. So my first thing to say is that I've been working away. I've been attempting, probably written about, I don't know, 10 different versions of the first chapter, and step back this week to get really clear on the plan, the outline. So the plan is that the first chapter, which I'm going to ask you for your feedback about today, is going to be focused on kind of answering the question, why is it so hard? Why is nonprofit governance so hard? And my answer is that it's because swirling around our own specific not-for-profit organization and board are all kinds of systems at play. Systems that are both in a big scale about the world and the state of the world today and the vital importance of our sector right now, and civil society in general, just civility, really. But those big systems, economic, social, political, governmental, etc., which I think of as the dominating forces of the corporate colonial mindset. So in my mind, when we in the nonprofit sector, who that where we are not corporate, and we are not government, and therefore I was going to say not colonial, but we are, right? Because in both cases, both those systems that are at play and that intersect very closely with each other, we reach to them to find the answers. So the legal system, we often fall back on, well, what's our legal obligation here? Which is, of course, a very colonial structure, and it's based on certainly North America, based on specific approaches to governing and government. And so we look to those systems. Government, when they provide us with funding, expect those kinds of systems to be in place. And they don't always work when we are purpose driven, when we're about a purpose that isn't as clear always as other systems. So, and then on top of that, we have these corporate systems. So those are the big systems are that we reach to when we are trying to figure out how to do our work, and they don't fit very well. The other systems at play are some of the myths and assumptions about how nonprofits have to function. This idea that there's some legal framework that we need to follow, and there is, but it's much simpler, more basic than most people working with a board understand. And overhead myth, that kind of stuff. So those systems are at play, and then you add into that our own human systems, which are about where I come from, what my background is, what my lived experience is, what my trauma is, the unconscious bias and assumptions I make about people. And so I open the chapter with us as an individual, speaking to you, the reader, walking into a boardroom for the first time. And what is the common thing that we all do? Well, one of the things we do is an affinity check, where we look around and see who here do I feel some affinity with, and who can I perhaps look to, who might have similar experiences or worldviews as I do. We often walk around. Most people in society to this day still have a sense of assumption about or confidence in the confident cis white man. That person, when they step into a room, our society is designed around um, a lot of confidence in that person, whether it's justified or not, whether that person even knows it. Usually they don't. So there's that kind of energy also going on. And then sometimes we have the exact opposite. You know, I grew up in As a queer person, I grew up with some discomfort around um, particularly white men, but some anxiety that they wouldn't understand where I was coming from, or they'd think I was like radical or different. So protecting myself in that is about looking around for affinity and looking around to see who I might connect with. So there's all these things that we do. We'd also look for general social cues about this group and what the culture is, what the norms are, what the people in the room are valuing. Often we're doing this completely subconsciously. And we're checking that and we're, wondering about that as we wonder about how we should show up, how we want to behave, how we want to present. We're also often thinking about wanting to make sure everyone in the room understands um, what our strengths are, who we are. So anyway, all that being said, all these systems at play, internal, external, big picture, systemic, again, state of the world, all those things come together that make it really hard for one particular not-for-profit board to be really concrete and clear about what it is. And it's why my big premise is always there's no such thing as best practice in nonprofit governance. Why? Because it depends on all these systems and how they interplay with what you're trying to accomplish. And we all have different purposes. Some have similar purposes, some collide, but yeah, overall. So that's what I'm exploring in this first chapter. So my question to you, if you want to comment or share your thoughts, is what's a system that you think interferes with great nonprofit governance? So go over to you. Thanks. So next week I'll talk about what chapter two is all about, which is governance models and approaches to governance and the problems we're trying to solve with nonprofit governance. And so I'll dig into that and I'll just go through what purpose-driven governance is and how it might fit into that problem solution scenario. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Yay. Bye.